Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the 2024 State of the Union address is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Hello there. Welcome back. It's Wednesday, 6:30, and it's my joy and privilege and pleasure to get back with you, my cohorts in this podcast. I am so fond of the people who call in and listen, and I find that so many brilliant people are in touch with this podcast and contribute to my knowledge. Even though the title of the program is Morty Davis, the Voice of Wisdom, it's really the collective of all of you that enhance the wisdom way beyond my extensive knowledge, but still limited. So I want to thank you, and I enjoy being with you. And before we get into the nitty-gritty, as we always do, of this week's or the current issues, I want to figure out how to make you happier, because that's my goal. I want to make my children happier, my grandchildren, and the people that I love, which includes all of you. So I suggested in the past you should get a copy of Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. The bottom of the page says, of the cover says, how to be happy no matter what. And it's 365 pages, one for every day of the year, of how to be happier. There's humor, there's wisdom from the Bible, from great people who addressed this issue. I love Bishop Sheen. I forget his Bishop, what's his first name? Anyway, Bishop Sheen was a bishop. He wrote a book, The Power of Positive Thinking, I think that was the name of it, and of Dale Carnegie, and all of these brilliant writers and who had incisive suggestions and recommendations to add to your happiness and to avoid the things that make you happy, aggravation, disappointments, and so forth. So it incorporates a lot of things that I learned over my long life, and it's available to you. I'm recommending the book not because I wrote it or because I need the sales. Believe me, I don't. I give whatever I get, I give it all to charity. But it's the kind of book that I get calls all the time from people I don't even know. I didn't know they own the book or bought the book, and they're telling me how much they love it, how they read it to their family, how much benefit they're getting. And this is from leaders of the corporate world. One of them's head of one of the Fortune 100 companies. He's got thousands of employees. He gives thousands of gifts a year. And this is a book that he's been given and he says he's getting more compliments. Most of the gifts he gives, and he gives out tens of thousands of gifts during the year. The recipients of those gifts hardly ever respond to or do a little more than thank you, Jim, for sending me this. But most of them don't even do that, and certainly during the year they forget exactly who sent them the gift. And in this case, he says they're calling them during the year after they had the book for months and thank them. So, and I'm so sure you're going to enjoy it because of the feedback. Not only enjoy it, but benefit from it and raise your happiness and get rid of eliminate your unhappiness, your disappointments, which we all have. So, in light of that, more than any other program that you'll watch on TV, I promise you, if you don't find what I'm telling you is true, that you're going to get benefits beyond your imagination and joy and pleasure and insights and all the things you look for in this kind of book on happiness. I will not only send you back whatever you paid. If you send me your receipt, I'll send you back not only whatever you paid, but double the amount. So it's a good way for you to make a profit. That should give you some happiness. But I'm so sure so far I've made this offer, and so far I haven't anybody send me back a receipt. Maybe it would help if I gave them an address to send it to. But anyway, I love you all, and I wanted you to be happy. And one of the things, without going into every page in the book, I want to tell you, the most important thing is to be in control. And the most important thing to be in control of is your own mind. If you can't be in control of your own mind, I don't know what you could ever control in your life, because your mind is it's with you 24/7, all the years that you live. So learn how to be the master of your mind, and you decide what you're going to think. And if you start to think negative things, just switch gears right away and move to something that takes you away from negative thoughts and disappointments and tragedies that you experienced and failures that you experience and disappointing relationships, all of the things that aggravate us and give us anxiety and unhappiness. So if you're in control of your own mind and be optimistic, the great thing people don't realize, one of the reasons that Ronald Reagan was appreciated so much as president, and even though the people that love him for his politics and for his policies, and think he did all the things that he promised, like balancing the budget or
reducing the size of government,
reducing the size of government, or cutting taxes, all of which he promised. But if you look at the record, it's not there. He increased the deficit dramatically during his tenure. He didn't shrink the government. But the one thing he did was he was always upbeat. What was the thing he said that on the hill? The
shining star on the hill, shining light on the hill.
America was the shining light on the hill. And he always talked as if we have the most perfect world, and it's only going to get more perfect because of his leadership and the American people, you all. And so he was upbeat, and he always had a sense of humor, and he always told good jokes. I just loved listening to him, even though sometimes I disagreed with his politics, but he was a winner, you know. And that's what's going to happen with you. If you smile all the time and you're happy in your relationships and you're upbeat in your relationships, people are going to love being with you, being your friend, doing good things for you, and it will add immensely to your happiness. So just get the attitude. It's all attitudinal, that you are terrific, that even though you go through difficult things, and all of us do, we go through tragedies, we go through failures, we go through disappointments, we go through broken relationships, even people that we trusted, people I lent money to and thought I was doing great things by helping them. Afterwards, when I sought to get repaid, they said, well, now's not a good time, and or, you know, I'll call you when I have the money and so forth. And if I called them more than 2 or 3 times, they said, stop bugging me, you know. And I lost a friend out of doing a mitzvah, doing a good deed. So, and that's very disappointing. It wasn't that I didn't get the money back, it's that I lost friends trying to be a very constructive friend. So just be upbeat, always smile. It's contagious. If you got a sourpuss, that's contagious too. So follow my advice, and as I say, I can only give you very brief insights and suggestions, but this book will guarantee you happiness.
It's like the song says, when you smile, the whole world smiles with you.
That's right. And it's very hard to be unhappy when you're smiling. And when you put on a sour puss, you do get unhappy. So smile and enjoy life and look at the good side. And if you get into a depressed mood, switch gears immediately. And what I'm fond of telling you that for me it's easy, because whenever I get into one of these moods where I think about some major disappointment, major failure, even some past tragedy, it's easy for me because I just run down to the freezer and get some chocolate ice cream. I'm a chocoholic. And put some chocolate syrup on it, some chopped nuts, some whipped cream, and what kind of cherry is it?
Maraschino cherry.
Maraschino cherry. And suddenly I'm happy as a pig in a pen or whatever. But there's so many ways to do that. You can immediately go visit a friend, make love to somebody you love, watch a good movie, read a good book, go out into the world and enjoy nature. There's so many ways to uplift your mood that we don't take advantage of. It's unbelievable. So learn to shift gears when you're going through a bad period. Anyway, enough of happiness. I'll let you go back to your misery and smile. Anyway, today's subject is one that is very intriguing because it follows last Thursday night's State of the Union by the President Biden. And the question is, did you enjoy it? It's one of the most watched programs other than
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, the State of the Union message.
Yep.
And so Biden came out. He came out looking happy, acting healthy and youthful, which right away made him a winner because he's been maligned as too old and decrepit. And as a matter of fact, the follow-on commercials that some of these politicians have used since then is showing him falling all over the place, climbing up to his airplane up
the steps to Air Force
what's
One.
it called?
Air Force One.
Air Force One, falling on the steps, misstating words, losing his seemingly his mind, losing it where he's turning away to leave the stage, and he makes wrong turns and so forth. And they've done a good job in making people, or convincing certain people, or many people, in fact, that he's not equipped to be president. He can't handle the job. He's too old. His mind is gone, and so forth. So just showing up and being very upbeat for 68 minutes. First, he entered the Senate
House chamber.
The House chamber, walking in and smiling at all the people that were eager to bless him and talk to him and so forth. That in itself, and as climbing up on the stage and not falling, and speaking without, maybe a couple of times they might have slipped, but we all do that. But he really came across as somebody who's ready to handle the job, not only for the next 4 years, maybe for the next 20 years. But just by showing up and appearing wise and in control, he did himself a great service. And I think he won a lot of people that had doubts about his capacity. And in addition to that, I thought that his ideas, he covered almost every important idea that most Americans are concerned about. The economy, housing, rent, inflation, just about unemployment. I can't think of anything he dealt with, how he, for the first time in a long time, more than any other president, provided funds for infrastructure, for tunnels and highways and schools and all the things, roads, and also for electric vehicles that will use less toxic fuels. All the things that should be high on our agenda, even if we're not aware of it at the time. Improving healthcare, reducing the cost of drugs. For the first time, we had something on the books that Medicare, which is the largest purchaser of drugs and in a position to negotiate better prices, Congress introduced a rule that I can't understand why, except for the strong lobby, the enormous amount of the pharmaceutical industry spends to back almost every elected official to win something like this, that it would hurt our ability to get more drugs, new drugs, if we negotiated the prices down. As a matter of fact, one of the things he pointed out so rightfully and so incisively is the cost of insulin, which Eli Lilly was charging over $100 for, over $100 a month for. It cost them less than $10 much less than $10 to make. The patents ran out a long time ago, and they have this monopoly, and they finally put the pressure on Eli Lilly, and Biden and his team brought it down to $35 a month. Still way too much because it costs them less than $10. Almost every other country in the world is charging $10 or less for a month's supply. And here in the United States, they tell the story of one woman, since most Americans live from hand to mouth, if they hit with a bill for $400, $500 based on some occurrence with their health care or their some emergency, they're literally in bankrupt and destitute and can't pay for drugs. So this woman said she was on getting money from the government, and her next paycheck wasn't coming till the first of the month, and she was trying to hold out to spend that money for insulin and till the end of the month. And as a consequence of her son not getting insulin, he died before she got the next payment. So all of the things that he talked about, so many things that we were not even aware of, subsidizing housing and rent and finding ways to make our lives easier, better, more satisfying. I thought it was a great, great presentation, and I've been somewhat questionable about his capacity to serve and his ideas, but I think if he had a chance to win, and up to now he's up to that State of the Union message, his poll numbers were terrible. When they ask about it, who's best for the economy, he's way, way below Trump. Very low rating. His popularity, his just every measure. I don't know, one measure where there's one measure that he was higher, and I forget which one. But it's really at the bottom of any president that was running for re-election, or any candidate that was ever running for election. So I think his numbers are going to go as a consequence of that talk, that State of the Union delivery. I think he's going to get a big jump, and probably if he wins, that's going to be the stepping stone that brought him to victory. So without further ado, I have a brilliant guest, Len Carter. It's really my joy and my pleasure and my privilege, and it's really great to have him back. I used to have different guests every week join me. He's the best cohort. He knows everything about everything. He's an expert on everything. He graduated as an engineer from Cornell University at the top of his class, Cornell being an Ivy League school. Then he went to one of the top schools in the United States or in the world, Stanford University in California, to do graduate engineering work, and got a degree at the top of his class. And then he went to my alumni. He went many years later because he's much younger. But like me, he graduated at the top of his class. So in light of that, it's really something to have him on the program and is willing to show up as often as he does as my cohort.
You know, I'll have to say what President Biden said when he first got to the podium. If I was smart, I'd leave right now.
Yeah, that's right.
After that introduction, right. If I'm smart, I got to leave right now.
Anyway, give him some of your wisdom.
So it's interesting because I
don't mean to dominate or make this a monologue.
I thought, you know, the context is very relevant here. I mean, Biden's went into this State of the Union with his lowest and maybe the lowest, as you said, presidential approval ratings, 38%, which in this is his third or fourth State of the Union, 21, 22, fourth State of the Union, and each rating, presidential approval rating, has gone down from the one before it.
Really?
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
18% of Americans think Biden policies have helped them. Only 18%, 43% say they've hurt. So I think his staff and, you know, fellow Democrats are certainly holding their breath, because there were two things that, you know, that were important, not just what he was saying, but how he was saying it, because the whole policy aside, there's the whole perception of diminished capacity and suitability for the job perpetuated by his opponents. So I think with that, you know, as a backdrop, he had a tall order to do. I think he did, you know, live up to it. I think, you know, I knew afterwards what, you know, it's like a perceptive set. People see what they want to see. You know, they say 6 out of 10 viewers had a positive or very positive reaction. So 60% of viewers thought it was positive, although that's biased, because most people watching a presidential State of the Union are from that party.
Is that true?
So you tend to get a bias just in the viewership. So if you poll just viewers, you're going to get a natural bias toward Democrats, who are going to be naturally biased toward the president in this case. So, but still, at least that's not a terrible thing. I did think, you know, he was I think well prepared for the heckling. You know, it started, you know, in the Obama State of the Unions, when GOP members started to heckle him, calling him a yelling out liar. In the past, that was never the case. I mean, when President Bush Jr., in one of his State of the Union addresses, he was the first president to give a State of the Union to the Congress when Nancy Pelosi became the first woman speaker. And he started off his address by saying he has the privilege of saying something no one else has been able to say, Madam Speaker. So, I mean, the cordiality and just civility of the government was so much different then. And here today, you know, Biden walks in and, you know, he's getting hugged and kissed and fist pumped, and there's Marjorie Taylor Greene wearing a MAGA hat, which, by the way, is against the rule, not a MAGA hat per se, but you're not allowed to wear hats in the Congress, in the chamber.
Right.
And so, you know, it just goes to just a blatant disregard for our government. I mean, that's just disrespectful and wrong. I don't care if I agree or disagree with her views, it's wrong. And
She did it last time too.
I think
I
so.
think she shouted out.
Oh, she certainly
That is-
screamed
that is-
out
that
a
is a
liar.
liar,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
And that's unheard of.
I mean, that is it. And now it's become commonplace. In fact, Speaker Johnson sent a memo to his,
Follows.
constituency, his caucus, imploring them not to be out of line, not to misbehave. I mean, this is, adults, elected officials, and here they are screaming and yelling, like they're in kindergarten.
You know what?
And it didn't, I mean, it worked a little bit, I guess, but, there was still, he not that the Democrats are always immune to that. I mean, Nancy Pelosi ripped up Trump's speech one year, if you remember that, behind Trump, which I thought was not an appropriate thing to do. So it's not limited to the Republican side of the aisle, but so I thought that was well done. I think, though, and I continue to believe this, if the Democrats lose the election, they deserve to lose the election because they have the power. They're the party in the White House. The president has tremendous power. And yes, things like the border bill have been blocked by the other side. But what he should have
Not the other side, Trump.
Well,
Trump
at the insistence of, as Biden said, my predecessor.
But the other side actually voted.
They would have voted.
No, they voted.
They drafted it. The most conservative senator in the Senate.
The Senate
drafted it, and
Johnson wouldn't bring it up.
He refused to bring it up for a vote, and then also, it's not clear now, even if he brought it to a vote, because Trump got to the people to tell them don't vote for it. So in addition to not being brought up for a vote, even if it were, it's not.
But I said it
would have passed, sure. I mean, when else? Where do you get a bipartisan immigration bill? I mean, this has been going on for 20 years, where they can't agree on anything. And in fact, I'm not an expert, but of what historically the Republicans wanted. But from my understanding of this border bill, there's a lot of stuff in there that the Republicans have in the past wanted.
Right.
Progressives were very much against and got it.
Why was Trump against it if it's all the things that he wanted?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obvious, but yeah, he can't have.
It's a win for,
of course.
It takes away one of the biggest issues against Biden.
So I think he did a good job trying to articulate that it's not entirely his fault that this isn't happening, because here is something that could address, at least make a step toward the right direction.
He itemized all
so he did a good job there. However, he's still not.
Bill would have done, bring on more judges,
and
move people through the process.
Right. What he should have said, and still what he should do, I believe, is say, if this is what I want to do, this is what's in the bill. If this isn't passed, I will do it by executive action. If this isn't passed, I will do it by executive action.
Can he do that?
He can do a lot of stuff by executive action.
I'm not sure he could do that.
But look, whether he could definitely try. Whether it gets struck down by courts, that we'll see. Look, what did Trump do early in his presidency? Instituted a Muslim ban. Wound up getting struck down, and the courts often push back on executive orders. But as sure as we're both sitting here on day one, if Trump were in that position, and it were a Democratic, resistance, he would just do it by executive order.
Yeah.
He would say, "This is invasion on our country. I'm going to just do it by executive order, shut the border, do this, do that, deport people, take action, which I think in a way does make Biden look weak because he has tools in his hand that he's not using.
Yeah, but
that's his own fault.
But clearly, you can't do it by executive action.
But you can,
because Trump was president and he was insisting that we should have a wall and we should stop this immigration.
Right, but
if he could have done it by executive action, he would have done it.
But he did many things by executive action, and even if it doesn't work, you do it anyway.
Yeah.
You do it anyway, just to show the world, because everyone is so beating up on the guy for not doing anything, and our country's in this terrible situation. Do it. That's what he should do. It's his own fault. If he loses this election, I think it's his own fault. And then the other problem they have is just bad messaging. It's just they are very bad at messaging. I mean, he tried to, bring some statistics in. Unemployment's lower than it was during the Trump time, which is true. We've created more jobs, than were created during the Trump period, which is true. So there's a lot of things that, they haven't messaged well. I was
just going to point out to you, I'm sure you're aware of it, with these poll numbers for Biden being so low are really surprising and unexplainable, because all of the issues that matter to people have improved dramatically. There's lower unemployment than there's been in decades.
Except one.
Except what?
Except one, which I think is still going to hurt him and will remain hurting him, which is the kitchen table issue of
the
prices for food and rent.
Economists say that
while inflation is down
from 9%,
but that doesn't help. But inflation being down doesn't mean prices are down. That's the problem, is that people are paying a lot more for what they used to pay.
Presumably, inflation represents the prices that people are paying.
No, inflation represents the rate of increase of prices people are paying. So if inflation is 0, it just means prices aren't going up. If inflation is 10%, it means prices are going up 10%. So prices, when inflation is some number, prices go up, and then as inflation goes down, prices just stop going. No, they stop going up as fast. No, that's deflation when prices come down.
No, it reduces the inflation first before it becomes deflation.
No, because inflation is the change in prices. It's not price level. It's the change in prices. So that means after a few years of rising prices,
it went up 9%.
Right, 9%, and then it's
go down.
So then it stays.
So that reflects the lower price of goods.
No,
absolutely.
No, because if your groceries were $100 and you have 9% inflation, now your groceries are $109. Okay, if you then have 3% inflation, your groceries go from 109 to 112, and then if you have 0% inflation, the groceries remain at 112. They just don't increase. Inflation is the rate of change. So what's happened is prices have gone up because there's been inflation, but even with no inflation, prices just don't keep going up, but they stay high. That's what's happened. So, it's the CPI or the CPI measures price level. That keeps going up, or maybe stops going up. But the rate at which it goes up, which is the rate of inflation, that's what you hear, 3%, 9%. That's how fast prices are going up. It doesn't mean they're going down. So what's happened is people are paying, even as inflation's cooling, price levels aren't going down. So their bills every week at the grocery store are still really high. They're not going up each week like they used to, but they're still way up here compared to way down here where they were before there was inflation.
But the cost of healthcare, of medications,
So
have been
okay,
pushed down by
that
and
that's
Biden's done a lot.
right. So that's why
Economists say that he's done more good for the economy than any president in years.
so things which reduce prices, not just stop them from going up,
Right.
but actually reduce prices, that will have an impact
But it
on
hasn't.
people's pocketbook.
But it hasn't.
Well, if things like, insulin price reductions,
Yeah,
that
all drugs.
or if they've gone down, then yes, that would represent a reduction in the price level.
Right.
But things that most people feel on a daily basis, the two big things, food and rent. Food has not come down. It may not be going up as fast, but if they say, I don't know, the same basket of groceries today is 25% more expensive than it was a few years ago. I mean, it may not continue to go up, but if it used to be $100 and now it's $125, it's staying at $125. That's 0% inflation. So that's what people feel.
American industry is brilliant because they lower the price.
Right. So that's
put the smaller.
Right. So that's actually one of the things.
To be
right.
Much bigger, and now it's half the size.
So it's interesting.
So
they call it shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation.
Yeah, Biden mentioned that last night. In fact, one of the things, as we go through some of the policies that he mentioned, he wants to legislate. He calls it like a price gouging. Legislate shrinkflation, where manufacturers, give you fewer Doritos for the same price.
Right.
So it's inflation, but it's through that shrinkage of size. I mean, what do you think? Should that be something that is legislated to manufacturers? They're not allowed to do that?
Well, I think that the role of government is to do something when the numbers and economists say that the prices shouldn't be going up. It's only that the companies want to make more profits, so they're gouging, and that's unfair.
No, I would agree that if it's gouging or deceptive pricing, then yes, that should be legislated and protected.
The only reason that
but if a manufacturer wants to
don't
sell,
use deceptive pricing, because the only reason there's deceptive pricing is to do gouging. Otherwise, why would you do deceptive pricing?
Well, I don't know. I think I see price gouging as almost a monopolistic property. So if Nabisco wants to sell a bag of Oreos with too fewer Oreos in it for the same price as it used to sell, I don't think that's price gouging, because people can buy other. It's not. It's not a monopoly. It's when price gouging.
If I want Oreos, there's no substitute.
No, or Haagen-Dazs.
Really? There used to be a time when Oreos weren't kosher, so we had Hydrox cookies.
Yep.
But once Oreo became kosher, it became overwhelmingly. So when you're dependent on something, that's gouging, and especially for products that are even more.
So what about a generic bag of potato chips? Is it okay? Why is it not okay if the manufacturer of generic potato chips wants to put 15 ounces into the bag instead of 16 ounces into the bag and charge the same amount? Why is that not okay?
Because it's manipulative. People aren't aware. They don't look at the ounces. They still think they're getting this. That's gouging. That's if they had a sign on it that it's only 15 ounces. It used to be 16 ounces, and this is the price. So there's various ways that industry look. For years, the oil industry have been gouging people.
That's 100% because
and it's inflexible. That's what do they call it?
Inelastic.
Inelastic.
That's true, but I
The
think
demand. If you need gas for your car, you're going to buy it regardless of the price. I mean, at least the minimum amount that you need. And if it goes way down, you're not going to buy 5 times as much or even twice as much. You don't need it. So it's really inelastic.
But I would say that in markets where there's monopolistic control, then there is a need for a regulation. I would argue in the potato chip market, it's more of a free market. Now maybe we could argue about whether Oreos are, such a unique food source foodstuff that there is no equivalent, and therefore it should be treated as like a single source drug that only exists from one pharmaceutical company to treat this disease. In that case, that's price gouging.
Yeah.
But in other cases, it's more a function of, is it really the only thing? And then, so if they wouldn't be allowed to reduce the number of cookies at the same price, could they so you'd say they're okay to raise the price for the same number of cookies. That's okay. Even though it's effectively raising the price per cookie, doesn't matter. So in one case it's gouging when you reduce the number of cookies but keep the price the same. So what about just raising the price but keeping the number of cookies the same? Like let's say you had 50 cookies in a box of Oreos. You're saying that if you reduce it to 45 and keep the price the same, that's no good.
Unrelated to. If there's no reason why it should be priced more.
In any way,
words,
however you may. Raise the price, lower the quantity, however.
The labor costs didn't go up, sugar didn't go up. As a matter of fact, some of the ingredients went down in cost. That's gouging. And the nature of the industry, they're quick to raise. Even we find that with gasoline. They raise it much faster than,
it's sticky.
Than bring the
prices are
down.
sticky. Yes. So, that's a.
I don't know if you ever noticed when one airline suddenly raises the prices.
Yes, it's called price leading.
Every other, they
Right.
don't say we're going to get more business. We'll keep our prices low.
Right.
Or when they say,
but that's not
we're
illegal.
going to charge.
Price leading is not. Price collusion is illegal.
Well, it is collusion, even though they don't talk to each other.
No, I mean that's not. At least that's not what the interpretation of.
That suggests monopoly pricing, because if they really want to be competitive to get more business,
but there's nothing requiring any of them to raise the price, and there's nothing, and they're not colluding to raise the price.
Why would they suddenly? One airline says we're going to charge for a special seat, or for luggage, or all of which are arbitrary way to raise, and everybody follows. It shows that that's kind of monopoly power.
Well, it depends on how it was
That is
done.
monopoly power.
It depends on how it's done. Well, if they
the
meet in a
only way
room, if they meet in a room and decide, okay, we're all
they
going to
don't
raise
have
the
to-
price,
They don't
then
have to. They give the signal. If the only way to fly from New York to I don't know, Albany, there's one airline. Then it's
right, that's a monopoly. But
yeah.
that's different. But
That's what it is with airlines.
No, because when airlines when airlines are flying to LA and there's one of them decides to raise the price for checked bags, they're not the only airline flying to LA to charge for checked bags. So why wouldn't they triple the price? Because if they did, they're not going to get any business because there's other people.
No, but they immediately follow. I never saw one case where one airline raised the price and others kept their price the same.
Well, they're always competing for business. There are market mechanisms to keep price.
True. There used to be a time when the government controlled all the prices.
I know.
And then they said, we got to make it more competitive, a free market. And the free market turned out to be not so free because they follow the leader. You don't have to meet in a room.
When Ford, well, I mean, at least that may not be, and some, I mean, at least the current interpretation of like Sherman antitrust and how that applies to corporate behavior
they don't bring the charges.
Is that unless it's actual collusion, it's not considered collusion. So when Ford announces we're raising the prices of cars by 5% this year, and General Motors follows suit and all the other companies follow suit, that's not considered price fixing or price collusion. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that we could debate and do debate, but that's...
To me, that's gouging.
And your
cost didn't go up, nothing changed. Your cost might have even gone down, but it's opportunistic. Because
gouging is but I still say when customers have no other alternative. So if Ford raises the price, they can buy at 10%. People and General Motors says we're not going to raise the price 10%. Then people will buy General Motors.
I know, but they don't.
So that's
what they always do. That's the point.
I'd
like to see the time when one company, when one airline raises the price and the others don't. I'd like to show me one time when they do that. Never happens. They all follow suit. They charge for for luggage, right? Any extra bag. So what do they say? Well, because the price of oil's gone up. Then the price of oil comes down. They keep that. Well, that's gouging. It may not be. That there's an action that you see the gouging, but to me that's gouging. It should come down. If the reason that it went up is because oil.
If you don't allow for price leadership or following, then you really are going down a slippery slope of having somebody in government determine whether that price increase is appropriate or not.
No.
So if Ford says we're raising price, and
right, the government doesn't.
Who's to say that 3% is enough, but 4% is too much?
The government doesn't bring monopoly. What do you call it? Lawsuits against companies because they'd be almost universally
Well,
against every company.
they do when they can, when like AT&T, they can. That's pretty clear that was a monopoly.
Look, Europe.
But it's hard to bring a case against. DOJ brought a case against Microsoft, didn't it? Because every computer in every office had Windows on it. So that's an argument that says it's a monopoly. When you got 10 airlines flying to LA, it's harder to make the argument that they're acting as, price colluders or oligopolists or whatever they would be called. That's just how,
They all raise it without any.
But then again, you're gonna have to at some point decide what's okay, what's not okay. That's the problem.
Look, Europe just charged Apple $2 billion. And Apple says, why are you doing this? They said, because you're pricing, you're charging the royalty to
right. But again, Apple's so dominant.
What's the company that's big in music? So
Spotify.
So Spotify is
right. But again, Apple is so dominant in that it's a case, just like Microsoft is so dominant in operating system software. So I don't know. We're actually don't want to run out of time. So let's talk about.
Do you think that Biden's State of the Union will make a difference in the perception of Biden?
That's a good question. I think
the poll numbers, because the economists are all saying
in the end
that he's doing a great job, and it's not reflected. So they say there's a lag, a year lag.
I say it won't, for those two reasons. That it won't matter.
It won't.
No, because
so you say that this State of the Union.
I mean, you always get a bump. You always get a small bump.
Yeah.
I think he may get a bump. So instead of 38%, maybe. But convincing people, you don't convince people on everyday issues that affect them. It's really what Reagan asked. What was so brilliant in the 1980 campaign against Carter: are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
Right.
Forget about statistics. Forget about this Bureau of Labor numbers. All this. No one cares about that.
You're right.
And that's what Trump keeps hammering home. Are you better off today? When people go out in the street, do you feel safer? You may be safer, and in fact, like New York City, like and in the country as well, the violent crime rate in the United States, I think, is as low as it's ever been since like 1970 or something. Right. But if people don't feel safe, why? Because they see on the news and like this woman, this jogger, what's her name, that they had the button for.
Green?
No, the woman who was killed by the migrant, the undocumented migrant.
Ryan.
Her name was Laken Riley.
Riley.
So she was a young woman. If people don't feel safe, even you could show them all the statistics you want. If people don't feel safe because you see on the news again, another person got slashed on the subway, another person got pushed on the this.
Excellent point. But
it's not. You can't convince people unless they actually feel it.
So that's a matter of,
and I don't think people are feeling it because
that's a matter of education.
They don't understand. Absolutely, it's a messaging issue.
Did it make a difference? That's what I'm saying. Did he reach out and convince enough people that you should take another look at some of these things that Trump is saying? Trump is making all kind of claims about how good his administration was. How good his administration was, or how he cut the deficit.
But one thing that Trump will always be able to make the case for is to say, under my presidency, prices were lower. They were.
Even if it wasn't.
But they were, because prices were lower 4 years ago than they were today. Even if inflation is now zero, there has been inflation. So prices go up. They may stop going up, but they're still up from when they were over here. So the price level, see, Biden's trying to argue the rate of inflation is down. Trump's arguing, don't tell me, I don't care about rates of inflation. What are you paying every week at the grocery store? Are your bills down? No, your bills aren't down. They're way up. And that's what people identify with. Your rent. Your rents are higher. You're paying more in rent. You're paying more in interest. Your interest rates are higher now. Your mortgage rates are higher now.
Talk, Biden said, I'm cutting your rent because I'm providing a subsidy.
The $400 a month mortgage tax credit.
On each of these issues, he's telling people you're going to get this benefit. And that should convince people.
Until they get it, though.
Yeah, there's a lag. Yeah.
But I'm not sure what the timing on this.
Trump never has a problem being superior to anybody because he doesn't care what the facts are, what lie he has to tell you. I mean,
but it's even the infrastructure bill. Even the infrastructure bill. Yeah. It's like it passed 2 years ago. It's do people feel that difference yet?
No, you wouldn't feel that.
That's the problem.
You can't.
But do they feel the effects of higher interest rates? Do they feel the effects of a period of inflation? Do they feel the effects of these news stories about undocumented migrants? Yeah, and that's why, at some level, I don't know if you can.
The facts are down.
It's not facts.
Murder is down.
It's how they feel. It's how they feel.
How they feel is based on the lies they're told. If Trump says
it's based,
there's more murder, there's more.
I don't know if it's a lie. It's not a lie when they show. It's maybe misrepresentation. It's maybe misbias. It's bias, right? When the TV news shows people getting if there's one person who gets thrown in the subway every day, they show that person. Why? It happened.
No, but there's facts. People should go by facts.
That is a fact. He was pushed in the subway.
One person.
But I'm saying that's not.
If the
a lie.
If the statistics show that right now murder rates are lowest in 40 years or something.
Right.
So they should feel better about it. Unless
they should, but when the media shows what they show,
unless some party advertises otherwise.
But that's it. Then the news media is as guilty as anyone else because they show bad news.
Politicians are manipulative.
Well, then it's not politicians; it's the news. Because when you turn on the 11 o'clock news,
where does the news get this information from? Politicians?
No, they get it from what's happening in the subway.
That's not.
It is facts. They just choose to report that. They don't choose to try to codify it by saying, "Yeah, another person died in the subway, but last year 2 people died in the subway." They don't say that. They're just showing what they want to show because it makes news.
So you're saying facts don't matter.
I'm saying
if this now at a 40-year low murder rates, and
because
Trump
they matter, but they're only if they're being communicated, and that's why they're not. Right. And so, if they were communicated differently, then
misinformation is what would.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily
misinformation.
It's not a lie though, because although you could say it is. I guess you want to say. You
go against the facts,
but it's not going against the facts. It's the difference between a material misstatement and a material omission, right? Both are not right. Material misstatement is when you say
the omission could be worse than the
right. The omission part is when you're not saying, but crime's really low in general. You're not lying.
Which is worse? omission or mistake?
That's, we could have a whole series of
saying.
debates on that. So if that's the argument, I hear that you could say that is as just as bad.
You could show a whole family getting wiped out in a murder, especially what they do by immigrants, and that happens not to be true because the facts are
in the world of like public companies, when the SEC's job is to make sure companies properly disclose what's going on to their public shareholders, and misstatements are just as bad as omissions. You don't neglecting to say your CEO has a terminal illness is just as bad as saying we had revenues 10 times as what we really did. One's a misstatement, one's an omission. Both no good. So anyway, we are pretty much out of time, but just one last thing.
When we're having fun.
What'd you think of, did you watch the rebuttal?
I watched the rebuttal. It's an unfair comparison. The one is set up to be a major event with
the other one's a soccer mom in a kitchen.
Yeah, she's in I've never seen one where, by Democrat or Republican, who does a follow-on that gets the kind of reception. First of all, they rarely deal with a response to what the
because
State of the Union
it was pre-recorded,
so
they were pre-done.
All they do is spout
the usual talking points.
No, the policy of the
right. Families are worse off, less safe, less secure.
Yeah.
Biden is a dithering, diminished leader.
Or taxes
right.
going to go up.
What about the choice of the person giving the rebuttal? I thought it was interesting that it was, a young white mother, prominently wearing a Christian cross too.
Yeah.
Interesting choice of people of someone to give the rebuttal. They said, someone said the Democrats wore white. You remember, you see a lot of the women
related to abortion.
Right. They said the Democrats wore.
That's where he made a big gain, playing up abortion, because that does affect a portion of the population that votes on that issue. So I think you say, does it affect you? They make that, they deliver that.
They try. Well. But it's not as big a kitchen table issue as
no, but one for the Democrats in 20 and 22. What is it called? The
Dobbs decision that overturned Roe versus Wade. Yeah.
Dobbs, yeah.
But anyway, so they said the Democrats wore white, and they said the Republicans were white. Anyway, so that's our chat for today.
Do you think it would have been better if the Republicans put a black a black woman?
I don't know. They
homeless.
I wonder,
instead of in a kitchen.
They wonder if that's her audition for vice president. That woman, Katie Britt.
Well, usually that's what they're doing. They're setting up somebody who they think is going to be a future superstar. Doesn't mean that the last one the Democrats put up was a black woman who was running for, I forget what she was running for, maybe.
I think it was, I think it was the governor of Georgia.
Yeah.
That was her, and lost. Yeah. And then won, I think. She lost. She lost to the, yeah.
But I'm saying, she was a superstar that had a great future.
Yep.
The good thing about our discussions are you can make the points that you like and that you feel are compelling, and I could make and depending on the attitude of the people who tune in and what they come to the program with in terms of attitude is going to probably determine.
It's going to always be the same thing. It's the swing voters, it's the suburbans, it's the swing states. It's always
what happens at the margins.
That's it.
And I think that performance that he did in terms of his preparation health-wise and age-wise, and also the message that he gave with major issues, hits some portion of the and what's his name? Trump has never gotten over 50%.
See, the other thing is a lot of the undecided voters who will make the difference are the swing voters, don't make their decisions until way, way later in the cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only in March.
Yeah.
We have a long way to go. And so a lot can happen between now and then. And so I think the important thing, and which is still, I think he still has time to do stuff. That's why I keep saying if he loses, it will be it's their own fault, because it's not like they don't have time. They know the issues. They know the issue, like the number one issue is immigration. Yeah. So you have 8 months to fix it in some way. If you don't fix it, and it's up to you, you can either fix it or at least you can appear to be trying to fix it. That's part of the problem, is that people look at the president and they don't see him doing anything. They're like, do something.
Yeah, but last night, Thursday night, that performance was doing something in my book. I think he reached people, and it had an impact.
But
it's only what happens at the margin.
Him saying to the legislators in the room, pass the border bill. That's not doing anything. Because
blaming the Republicans for not.
But that's still not.
Republicans keep on saying.
I know, but that's still not good enough. But then they'll say,
he's saying
he says they're the impediment.
No, but he says he's the first one. He's the first one that's put forward an immigration bill.
That's true, but the fact that it doesn't matter if there's no action from it. That's why all he has to do is executive orders. I don't understand why he's not doing it, but if he doesn't, he's going to be sitting there in November, and Trump is just going to be all over him saying, you didn't do anything about this border crisis. And he'll say, I tried, but you guys blocked it. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. So anyway.
For some few people, all you need is a small difference.
Well,
because he's never gotten over 50%.
But if you look at the polls now, those swing states, all the swing states are going to him, to Trump. Yeah. So if the election were held now, I think Trump would definitely win.
I'd like to see what the,
because it only takes like 4 or 5 states.
Like
it's really.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just Michigan, Wisconsin,
like
Ohio,
in the next 10 days. Although Governor Whitman from New Jersey, she's a moderate Republican. She said very wisely. She says it's a long way off, in presidential elections, 1 week is tantamount to.
That's true.
To a decade.
Right. That's true. That's why what happens in March, State of the Union, is going to be long forgotten by the time people go into the voting booths in September and October and November.
I thought it was gutsy in that he attacked the Supreme Court justices. That was gutsy. They were sitting there.
They didn't like that.
Yeah. But a lot of people liked it. The people that are pro...
people who like it, like it. People who don't like it, don't like it.
People that are pro-life think that Trump says he did a great thing. He's the first guy that got, rid of what's it called again? Roe Wade.
Hmm.
He takes credit for it.
And he deserves credit for it. It's just whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he definitely deserves credit
The
for it.
best thing, you want to see what politics is and the reality of the world is in terms of elections, even in a democracy. To have a statement by what's his name? The junior Senate leader of the junior leader of the Senate, not Chuck Schumer, but Chip. What? What's his name?
Who, the minority leader?
Minority leader.
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell. They have a thing of an excerpt of the speech he makes right after January 6th.
Yeah, he says Trump was responsible for it.
He says it was horrible, it was terrible. Mm-hmm. And then he's been critical of
and
Trump,
now he's endorsing him.
Now he's endorsing him.
Yep.
So there's no,
And then he's resigning or not running again because he's realized his party's changed and it's, what was that party and those views is now
I don't
different.
think politicians reflect real human beings because like Ted Cruz, who still loves Trump after Trump said his wife was ugly and his father helped in the conspiracy to kill John Kennedy. Mitch McConnell should be so angry forget about it, the political views, so angry at Trump because he said racist, major racist comments about Mitch McConnell's wife. She's Asian, and he said terrible things. You'd think on that basis alone, so they have no scruples, no morals, no. So it's how do you touch people who have no morals? How do you reach them?
All right.
That's the State of the Union.
Our next discussion, how you reach them. So we have a lot more to talk about, but for now,
we don't know right now we don't know what we're going to discuss.
That's true.
Whatever is current. What's the next big event that comes? Some of the trials, maybe.
So, all right, until next week, thank you for...
All right, all of you that are Jewish, have a great Shabbos, and all of you who are not Jewish, have a restful, relaxing, reinvigorating Sabbath, and a wonderful week upcoming, and everybody, all of you should have a wonderful week, a wonderful every day of your life. God bless you. I love you, and I look forward to being back with you, God willing, next Wednesday, 6:30. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Every day should be better than the day before. And be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Bye.